time to strap in for another edition of the CarsGuide podcast, the show that takes you beyond the test drive. This is the first episode for 2022. It's number 213, Best Off-Roaders for 2022. I'm CarsGuide Deputy Editor James Cleary, and joining me and looking at the oncoming crop of off-highway capable machines, our Adventure Editor Marcus Craft. G'day, Crafty.
Greetings.
And Managing Editor, Head of Video, Matt Campbell.
Hello, everyone.
Right. We'll also take a look at the fresh metal we've been driving this week and dive into your feedback. YouTubers, you can jump ahead via the time codes in the notes or click on the chapter markers in the timeline. So let's get to it. Now, our very own Tung authored a story recently, guys, which was about the best 4x4 and off-road vehicles arriving in 2022. He made the point that the last 18 months, we've collectively been battling against a worldwide virus, a pandemic. So international flights have remained off the table. So what are you going to do as a family? What do you turn to for your annual holiday? And it's the humble road trip. And he's been looking down that road at what's coming, at vehicles that are capable of leaving the bitumen actually, and taking you to that favourite campsite or beach or whatever it is that you're after. And there are half a dozen or so, and I was thinking we might just kick it off by looking at the different ones he's called out. Is that okay with you guys?
That works perfectly well.
Dive right in, mate.
Now, the first one is possibly, arguably the most interesting. It's the Ford Everest. And there's been so much hype about, Ford Ranger and the Everest being, essentially a twin under the skin for that vehicle. It's coming. It's going to have a lot of the stuff that we've been chatting about with regard to Ranger in terms of new engines, and it's going to look, we think, very F-150 US style across the front fascia. Crafty, the Everest has been a reasonable seller. It's up against, the mighty Prado and others. What do you make of its arrival? What kind of impact do you think it could make?
It's been impressive in the past. Like I've always liked the Everest, and we've taken them on beaches, plenty of sand out in the bush. They've always been capable, very comfortable. It's probably one of the better sort of ute platform to wagon arrangements in terms of refinement and that sort of thing. I like the look of the thing. I've always liked the new F-Truck sort of facade.
Yep.
I can't see them ruining the machinations underneath, like its ability to go off-road and that. So I'm excited. I reckon it looks good.
Good. And Matt, a big body-on-frame SUV. It's done reasonably well historically, but it's never really cracked it as the top seller, the flag, the kind of one to beat in that large SUV market. Do you think this one has the potential to change that?
I think the conversation has changed in Australia more generally around Ford four-wheel drives. Obviously, with Ranger up there in the top two in the most sold vehicles of 2021, just behind the Hilux. But it's so close in that race, the Ute race. And as we know, this is a Ute-based SUV. And if Ford can capitalize on the fact that this is based on the new Ranger and communicate that with potential customers, maybe there'll be more success this time around. I think early on with the first version of the Everest, part of the problem was the pricing. And everybody was pretty astounded when they were asking in the mid-70s for the top spec model, because nobody really saw this as a rival to Prado. They saw it more as a rival to the existing MUX and the Pajero Sport and those sorts of vehicles. So it's definitely got potential to improve its fortunes this time around, I think.
And we're theorising that it's still going to kick off from around 50, that you're going to need about that money to enter the Everest world. So it's not an insubstantial sum still.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's higher than that. And if the entire Ranger lineup moves up in pricing as well, just because we know that prices generally at the moment are pretty high, and there's more technology in these new vehicles than there ever has been. So the companies have to essentially make their money back on the investment, and they do that pretty early on. So these vehicles have a life cycle sometimes of up to 10, 12, 14 years. So they have to amortize the costs as soon as they can. And I think that, this is a interesting new model and could be a really big player for Ford if they play it right.
It's interesting. Who was the Aussie gold medalist? I think his name was John Sieben, and his technique was to just ride the wake of the guy that was leading the race and then just come out and kind of win in the last couple of lengths. I think that, using Ranger as a proxy for the benefits of this thing, that's a really interesting idea.
Yeah.
Ford could do a lot worse. Yes.
Yep.
Into Matthew Campbell, Ford product planning and marketing guru. That's fantastic.
My real calling.
Yeah, that's it. So that's a big one to kick it off. Then the next one is so interesting. Fourth quarter, we reckon. Ineos Grenadier. And a mate of mine, shout out to Tony, has one. He's got his hand up and he's lodged a deposit, and he's keen as to get his hands on it. Crafty, the Ineos Grenadier, what do you think it's going to do locally?
Yeah, I think they're going to move some units. This is the Defender that you get when you're not happy with the current
new
Defender.
One. Yeah, that's right.
Which is a great thing, but it's not what a lot of sort of hardcore traditionalists would have preferred. And the Ineos Grenadier goes back to those roots. I mean, they've really taken their cues from hardcore four-wheel driving, like all the characteristics that make things sometimes, the perception of not being so comfortable on road, but fully capable.
And in fact, it ended up in the courts, didn't it? In terms of,
absolutely,
are you actually wholesale taking our design? Yeah.
Well, I mean, you'd have to have something wrong with your vision not to pick up on those design cues. But good on them. And I mean, they've been pretty transparent through the whole planning and engineering phase and through the testing phase as well. They've only ever offered a drive. You get to sit in it and go for a bit of a drive with the guys. They did that. We had one of our blokes down there on that, and he came away pretty impressed. And he's not an easy bloke to impress, Dave Morley. So yeah, this thing again, we're talking about pricing. Everything is expensive these days. This is going to be upwards of 80 grand, I think, to kick off in. So and then I guess the idea is you option it up with things that might suit your particular lifestyle or whatever. In terms of camping and touring and that sort of thing. Yeah. So pretty pricey, but yeah, I mean, it looks good.
I thought you were going to say like header blades on the front and some kind of sprayer or seeder on the back. It's tough enough to get it into the paddock.
Or a guy up top with a guitar that shoots flames. I don't know, whatever you're into. That's up to you.
Matt, that's a great point, isn't it? Dave Morley, we have got that video up on the site or YouTube. People should check that out. But what do you make of the Grenadier? I love the idea for what it's worth.
Yeah, me too.
Where do you stand with it?
So I think it's a very intriguing option for buyers who don't want the creature comfort factor, and they just want to pay for the ability and capability that you get with a vehicle like this. And, it is going to be relatively quite expensive, I think, compared to some of those other rivals, like, 85 grand for the choice of petrol or diesel is what we're sort of guessing it at. And yeah, I mean, it makes a Ford Everest new generation model with all the fruit, probably with a 3-litre V6 diesel as well, for around that money. It's going to be hard to make your decision based on, what you want, I guess. And if there's also the chance that there will be a dual cab ute version of the Grenadier.
Right.
So basically doing it back to front compared to the likes of the D-Max and MUX and that sort of thing.
All right, with the tray in the front and the cab at the back. That's extraordinary.
They're changing things up there.
That's different.
But yeah, look, I'm like Crafty. I'm very excited to actually get a chance to see it, be in it, drive it. When that happens, it is probably still 9 months away, maybe. It could push into next year, with whatever's happening in the world. But it's something to be interested in.
It might be one of those ones where they have a good sales year first up and then never sell any because everyone will keep them forever. I think it'll be one of those ones where it'll just remain in ownership for a long, long time, that kind of vehicle. All right, let's keep going. Next up, it's the Grand Cherokee from Jeep. For so long, it's been such an important part of the Jeep lineup. And in recent times, be it through demand or supply or, an orderly run out, the new one has been seen. It's possible we'll be without a Grand Cherokee for a little while. So the third quarter is looking like when it will arrive. What do you think it means for Jeep, Crafty? It's obviously an important one for them. Meantime, you'll have Everest probably will have arrived and various others. Does it put Jeep into a hard spot, having to wait a while for this one?
I think so, and it's highly competitive. I mean, that realm is just super competitive. It's tough to get a real established position in. It's always had a pretty decent sort of reputation as a towing vehicle, and you see a lot of them around. For better or worse.
Yep.
I think they've got their sort of diehard fans, their mob of people who are Jeep through and through. I can't see it being a massive seller. As at any time, but it'll be interesting to see. The balance. It's more of an on-road thing. I mean, to be honest, like the Cherokee is more of a and pretty comfortable on road. Nice enough. And so.
We're going to have a 3.6 litre petrol V6, no V8 this time round, is what we're told. So, Matt, what do you make of that? Do you think that's palatable for Jeep Cherokee, Grand Cherokee devotees?
I think probably it's the realistic engine, whereas the old Hemis and the diesel even might not. I don't think there's a diesel coming this time around either.
Yeah.
And those sorts of powertrains, while they were popular in years gone by, I think the petrol engine, the V6, is probably the most, or the path of least resistance, I would guess. But then, there'll probably be a plug-in hybrid version at some point as well, and that adds a different element to that powertrain. And I think that, I don't know that the Jeep buyer is, in Australia at least, is ready for electrification just yet.
Right. Yeah.
But certainly in America, where you can actually get some sort of a benefit from buying an electrified car, we're seeing more and more of the cut through with the electrified Jeep models. Look, I know that the Grand Cherokee has a bit of a checkered history in Australia in terms of reliability and ownership and that sort of thing. There have been numerous instances of, the people getting cranky about having a lemon or whatever it may be. And I hope that they can shake that off. The new one, look, I'm not that massive of a fan of the look of it, but it's to everyone's.
You think it's a little bit bland? To me, it struck me as a bit generic and not having the character that you might like in a Grand Cherokee.
Yeah, the last one had a bit more muscle to it. This one's a bit more long and sleek. And just not quite as catching, I don't think. But
and Crafty, I mean, Matt's point about hybrids and alternate powertrains. It speaks to your point about Jeep being more of a tow vehicle and an on-road thing as opposed to seriously getting into the off-highway locations. But also you were mentioning earlier off air about your appetite for alternate powertrains in 4x4s and off-road vehicles.
Yeah, I think we're all waiting for EVs that are, very decent off-road, have a pretty good range in terms of, having to power them up in between stops, and I think that's the more exciting thing on the horizon. Whether it's a far horizon, who knows?
Yeah.
But I think that's going to really reset everything and reframe the whole approach to SUVs and off-roaders, and all it takes is for someone to do one decent vehicle, whether that's a Rivian or whatever that's been tested down south, and we just need something to shake everyone up.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, one that is not, it's certainly not a Rivian at this point, is a Lexus. It's the LX. And I think we all know that it's essentially a Land Cruiser that's been Lexified. And I do recall being on a trip with some of our colleagues out to Lightning Ridge and having a Lexus LX and using it to collect firewood. And I thought, this is possibly the only Lexus LX ever that's had firewood put in the back of it. But I suppose it's an important vehicle. What do you make of the whole Lexus LX concept, Crafty?
Look, I don't mind the excuse me, I don't mind the things. Again, while they may be effective to drive off-road, it's a little bit difficult because it's such a big beast, and it's more designed to be on-road. Also a pretty solid reputation as a tow vehicle. Like I've seen a fair few of them about with horse floats and that sort of thing. So the bigger, sort of more substantial load behind. And again, luxurious, prestigious, nice on road, nice around the suburbs, not such a hardcore tourer. So really not in my wheelhouse, for want of a better word. But I have taken a Lexus sort of here and there on pretty difficult stuff. Yeah, and driven with extreme consideration. They are quite capable.
That was mostly in Toorak, wasn't it? Or
That's right.
You were around Darling Point as well.
There was a tiny little bit of gutter that was maybe 5 centimetres. Yeah, I ramped over that mongrel.
Matt, the new one's grille gives BMW a run for its money in terms of the supersizing of that particular element. What are you making of its arrival?
I think that this could be the most important Lexus LX to date, because there are going to be people out there who can't get their hands on the Land Cruiser 300 series. Yeah, and if the step up isn't crazy. There are people who have bought 300 series brand new, managed to get theirs early and sell them on the used market for a stupid profit. And so this LX could actually be the best option for some potential 300 series buyers who might not necessarily be looking to do the serious off-road driving, because, the mechanicals are all the same. It's just got a bigger chin and a more aggressive look. And like Crafty said, you do have to be more careful with them when you do off-road stuff in an LX. But also, I think part of that is just being afraid of damaging something that's more expensive.
That's right.
Exactly.
And so the inherent capability is there with this car for those who are looking for something that is as good as a Land Cruiser 300 series, apart from maybe the approach and departure angles.
So what we really should be doing then is getting the listeners and viewers and all of us into a fractional ownership thing, chip in, buy a Lexus, and then we can all be happy days. We'll make a bit of dough.
Yeah. Or we can flip it and make profit.
That's right. That's right.
Now, next up, we've got a couple to go. The Pathfinder, second half, obviously an important vehicle for Nissan. We've got, this time they've ditched the CVT. We're into a 9-speed torque converter auto world, slightly more potent 3.5 litre petrol V6, better multimedia, AEB, better safety, all of that kind of stuff. What do you reckon, Crafty? Is the Pathfinder ready to take a step up in its next generation?
Yeah, I don't mind it. The Pathy's always had a bit of a rough trot because, again, it's in a pretty competitive sort of slab of the market, and it's really, I don't know. I guess it's difficult to get its foot in. As an off-roader, I mean, it's perfectly fine. That CVT, people always whinged about it, but I didn't mind it. And now I don't know, what is that, 350 Newton meters or something with the
351 to be precise. Yeah.
So not earth-shattering, but decent thing. But it's really more of an around town sort of a nice family-friendly sort of basic, not too exciting touring vehicle. I don't mind Nissans. I don't mind Navaras and also Pathys. But I mean, it'll be interesting.
Full transparency, Crafty. You are an owner.
Oh yeah, absolutely a Navara, but it's
it's been around the place.
It looks about 600 years old. Let's put it that way. So yeah.
Matt, another potential on-road more than off-road, but do you think, what do you make of this one? The updates, upgrades?
Another one where there is potential for success if Nissan can capitalize on it. I think that the new Pathfinder definitely has more presence to it. The current one, which has been around for a long time, is sort of a blob with lots of space in it. Whereas this is much more chiseled and muscular, a much more definitive piece of design that will actually kind of stand out a little bit in the Nissan range when it arrives, because, you know, the models below it, the new generation X-Trail and the new generation Qashqai, both have similar looks, but this is much more butch, I would say. And I think that in the world where, you know, you've got quite expensive new generation Kluger, Hyundai Palisades going up in price. You know, the the Kia Sorento as well is more expensive than ever before. So, you know, there might be new customers out there that are looking for something that might be potentially just a little bit more affordable.
Cool. Okay, that's good. And look, let's finish it off with the mighty Mitsubishi Pajero Sport, and it's imminent in terms of its arrival. And you talk about MUX and Everest. The Pajero Sport's going to be going up against the whole lot. And there's a new flagship, a GSR grade. So, Matt, would this one to you be another on-road rather than off-road type proposition, or where do you see it falling?
I think actually, for most people, it does fall more towards the adventure lifestyle. Okay. Anyone who's ridden in the back of Pajero Sport might realize that it's probably better for two people than it is for 5 or 7.
Yes,
they're a little bit uncomfortable in the back, but the fact is that they are really quite capable, and affordable is where they've always had their advantage. You know, we're talking up to $25,000 less than a Prado, and in similar spec, like the equipment levels are pretty similar. So, I mean, obviously, with the world the way it is and the market the way it is, maybe prices are not as representative now as they were a few years ago. But I think having something like the GSR grade just adds a little bit of something to that market, because it's, I mean, the Pajero Sport's been around for a little while now, and the market has shifted and it will continue to shift. So,
yeah. And Crafty, your familiarity or otherwise with the Pajero Sport, where do you see this new one coming into things?
Mate, we've done a hell of a lot of Ks in the Pajero Sport, and we've done a lot of comparison tests and single vehicle tests, and I reckon Matt's spot on. It's not quite as, I guess, and you know, again, it's a perception thing. I mean, people might think it's not as exciting or not as sort of, you know, a heroic legacy as something bearing the Toyota badge, or, you know, or even the Nissan badge, but it's always been pretty good value for money, very well equipped, surprisingly comfortable on road, and always very capable off road. And you see a lot of them modified nicely, like not too hardcore. And then they retain those characteristics where they're still good around town, but they're super effective off-road. And I like them. I mean, it's good, you know, a really good platform, always had a nice legacy about it. Again, not too sort of terribly exciting or heart-pounding, but very effective. And I think it's a good thing. I
actually liked the previous model's tail lights, which of course held the world record for the biggest tail lights. And I was the longest. They looked like they were melting down the back of the car. It was
Salvador Dali type.
I missed them a lot.
I always called them the crying clown, because it's like the makeup was running.
Oh wow, something from the Scream movie. Maybe that the guy should have been driving that. Okay. Well, that's a great roundup, and notwithstanding your comment, Crafty, about alternate powertrains and that being an exciting area as well. This is what's heading down the pipeline for us this year and our take on it. So it'd be great to hear what people listening or viewing make of these as well, and others that they might be looking forward to. But we're now going to move on to our garage and cars that we have in fact been driving rather than thinking about arriving. And Matt, could I kick off with you, please? You've been in a Toyota product recently. Fill us in.
It was the Kluger GX hybrid all-wheel drive. So the entry-level hybrid version of the new generation Kluger, 7-seater, 2.5-litre petrol 4-cylinder with battery backup. And I did a family trip with myself, my partner, our baby, 2 dogs, and a boot full of stuff out to Cowra in the central west of New South Wales.
And the boot full of stuff that you were taking to Cowra, you brought back with you?
Yes.
Or you found no, you didn't find a buyer. All right.
No, I didn't find a buyer. No,
good.
so yeah, dumped it out. No, it was a good little trip away. Did just over 650 Ks in it over 3 days. So yeah, really nice experience. I can see why people buy them. I showed it to my sister-in-law, who is basically sold on it. Having, being ready to upgrade from a RAV4, and that's where the market is. So
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So, 3 things I liked about it. Obviously, the fuel consumption was pretty good, 6.8-ish litres per 100 Ks.
What? That's
for
amazing.
That sort of distance.
Amazing.
It's, better than what you get in a diesel. The comfort, it's a really nice ride. And I also think that the packaging is quite good as well for the size of the thing. A couple of things I don't like about it. I'm not so keen on the fact that it's only got the 9-inch screen, and you can get a bigger screen in different markets. It does feel a little bit outdated already compared to some brand new models, because it was on sale in America for like a year and a half before we got it here. It is feeling almost like it's ready for an update, which is kind of surprising.
Wow, yeah, right.
And the third thing I don't like is that there is no airbags in the third row. So it's very much a temporary 7-seater.
Interesting. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Crafty, we're going to move on to your good self. And it's not a Japanese product. It's not even a European product anymore, is it really? If Brexit is anything to go by.
Yeah.
Tell us what you've been steering.
Not at all. I was in a Land Rover Discovery D300 S or SD300, whichever way you want it. That's an inline 6-cylinder, and that punches out 650 Newton meters.
Ooh,
so we had a lot of fun with that. We went out on the vehicle test day. It was quite muddy. And you'll see that in the video. The video's up on YouTube.
On the site,
Yep. I really enjoyed it. Again, full disclosure, I've had a Discovery in the past, but a long way back, a 1996 V8. I've always liked them. They've always been the sort of cushy alternative to the Defender. If you wanted something hardcore, you'd go for the Defender. With the new Defender being so nice and so refined, it was hard for me to see a place anymore for the Discovery, but having driven it, and I mean, I won't spoil it, JC, people have to watch the video to see whether I think there's still a place in the lineup for the Discovery, but really effective, really comfortable, a lot of fun. That air suspension sets it apart. Like it's a really good sort of off-road system, like terrain response. You've got everything at your fingertips. You can pretty much run the whole vehicle from its Pivi Pro screen, which I really like. I have had a few issues with in the past in a Defender, as a matter of fact, but this time, absolutely no issues. A lot of fun, very capable. We took it on some things that, I've only ever seen modified vehicles driven up. So very handy. I mean, you'd swap out the tyres because they're 20-inch tyres sort of for the road.
Yes.
But really nice. And if you've got the money, I mean, option up, I think it's about 102 grand as is, but prices tested because it had a few things thrown at it, including all-terrain progress control system. I'm probably getting that name wrong, but
I get what you mean.
As with any Land Rover product, you can throw a lot of things at it, but it adds to the price, and it ends up being about 111, I think, as tested. So a lot of bucks. But if you're in that area and you have that cash and you want a nice 7-seater family-friendly Touron, you could probably do a lot worse.
Super, very good. All right, thank you, Crafty. I'll finish it off. I was in a Kia Sportage over the Christmas New Year period. So this is the GT line diesel, It's just over $50,000. Well, it's 52 and a bit. 2-litre turbo diesel 4, 8-speed auto, and it's all-wheel drive. 137 kilowatts, 416 Newton meters. So that's pretty handy, particularly for an on-road focused kind of car. The pluses were this model gets a sweeping dash, which covers multimedia on the left and instruments on the right. And I'm always a sucker for that. I do like the Mercedes M-Bucks, the MBUX setup. I like it as well. The ergonomics are really good. It's roomy. Lots of equipment, including safety tech, active and passive safety tech. The quality of it was hugely impressive. You get your partial leather interior and the leather wheel and all that kind of stuff. I love ventilated seats. It was hot and muggy over Christmas, New Year, and these things worked really nicely. Very pleasant to have that, I must say. The minuses, it's a bit loud. I was surprised at how much noise kind of came through into the cabin. I had a bit of jiggling with the CarPlay connection, a bit unpredictable on that, which can be frustrating in the moment. And the car I had is called Jungle Wood Green, which to me came as a solid like olive green. I liked it. When our fearless leader Mal saw it, he goes, "Oh, you like it, do you?" So I realised it's somewhat polarising, but I thought it set the car off very nicely. But at that, there's a lot of options around that just over $50,000 mark. But I think that Sportage, and I've just recently driven the base model, and when you don't have that screen, and when some of the buttons are blanked out, and there's a little, there you go, it's a slightly different proposition with exactly the same engine. But if you do pay the bucks, I think you get a really good vehicle.
Now, JC, I've got the GT Line petrol, the 1.6 turbo with the dual clutch transmission.
Okay.
And I wish I had the diesel because the diesel, the powertrain in it, 2-litre, 8-speed auto, and it's predictable. It's much more refined. The powertrain in the petrol turbo is not as
less refined. Well, I think the thing, we've all been spoiled by diesel turbos that produce all of their torque so low down and hang on to it for so long. So if you really want to get somewhere and squeeze the throttle, it's lovely. So, and it delivers it so very nicely. It's not as if you're getting anything other than linear power delivery, no kind of whoosh or whatever. It's lovely.
Yeah, you get a fair bit of rock and roll in the old 1.6 turbo.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good reference too.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, guys. That's that. We're going to go to feedback comment of the week. It's sitting on top of the shipping container at the front of the CarsGuide forecourt, ready for someone to come in and take a look.
Got the wavy arms.
Got the wavy arms, guys. We've got bunting, balloons. We are serious about this. We're going to have a big weekend. And the one that we're going to sell some cars, people. The one that stood out was Kelvin Koo. Last time around, way back when, before Christmas last year, we were talking about Honda's move in terms of its business model and its shift up market and what have you. And Kelvin says he made some what I believe is a really interesting comment. He says it's positive that Honda Australia is at least trying something because, yes, they have been in trouble, I suppose, for a little while. He agrees with Dave Morley. Dave was on our panel for the show. What they're trying isn't being done well, done consistently. They're pivoting up market, but offering less than the market expects. No sunroof, no head-up display, no full digital instrument cluster, no 360-degree camera, parking sensors, no hybrid system, all of that. So features the Civic's mainstream peers, and we did focus on the Civic because it's now quite an expensive car, are equipped with for less than 47K. It's a significant sum, and the product being offered is indicative of Honda Australia's, his words not mine, lazy and condescending approach, expecting premium brand recognition by just getting rid of the lower end variants while not adding substantially to the top end model relative to its competition. With the way Honda Australia is going so far, the only recognition coming their way is that they've lost the plot. So I thought that was a really interesting perspective. Matt, do you agree or disagree with?
I think there are some points well made there. And removing cheaper variants, yes, it does simplify the business and it simplifies the availability of what you can and can't choose. But it does also basically alienate probably 85% of the market. So, you know, if you can't go in and buy a Honda Civic for 35 grand, and there's nothing else from Honda that you are interested in at that price point, there's only basically the HR-V at 35 grand now.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's no Jazz anymore. There's no Honda City anymore. A bunch of the other models have been superseded or just pushed out. And so, you know, I think the days of affordable Hondas are done. And it seems like a real misstep to me.
I just thought it was a really interesting perspective to say just by eradicating your lower models doesn't necessarily make you a premium brand.
Oh, not at all. 100%. I mean, where are the premium brands going? They're tendrils reaching down to the new market. The ones that they want to get in, show them that you can have luxury at a lower price point. And then as those people, you know, we talk about it all the time internally here, that, you know, as you move up through your life stages, you stay with the brand, and that's the aim.
You want something to creep into.
You go from an A class to a C class to an E class to a GLE to whatever it may be, you know, like that's how it works.
And speaking of tendrils, Crafty, I remember your tendrils were wrapped around the wheel of your very fast, you know, go fast, hot dog exhaust, Civic hatch back in the day. You were terrorizing the streets. Is Honda a brand that you have much affinity with?
No, not at all. So whatever Matt said, it's
that's good.
It's a by any car company, it's a very peculiar move, and I can't see it. I can't see it being a positive one in the long run. I mean, why would you when you've got a decent reputation as, you know, a cheaper value for money, sort of accessible car manufacturer, and now people don't have that option. You can't. It's
interesting. I think it's trying to hark back to days when they were seen as a technology leader and the Japanese BMW and all of those things. And what Kelvin's saying is that's all well and good, but you've got to do that. You've got to put yourself right there and have other people reaching up to you rather than just changing your model line. Anyway, thank you, Kelvin. It's a really good point of view. And look, with that, we've reached the finish line. So it's time to say thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
And thank you, Crafty.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you, mate. And thanks to our head of production, Wow, ambassador of Buzz and soft cheese specialist, Mr. Pritchard, for his deft behind-the-scenes skills. Today, he's wearing a T-shirt saying, "Let me check my give a shitometer." Nope, nothing. Pringles trunks and rainbow platforms. Jump into the conversation. CarsGuide's on Facebook and Instagram, or email us at comments@carsguide.com.au. Please do that. Apple Podcast listeners, please take a moment to rate and review the show. 5 is the preferred number of stars. That would be great. Thank you. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to subscribe to the CarsGuide YouTube channel so you can stay on top of all our latest content. But before we go, because I was picking the car up from service late last week, it was still in the wash bay when I arrived. So I had to wait a while. Look, it's a great shop. They were washing the car for a start. It's fantastic. But some of the staff are, you know, just this side of street legal, if you know what I mean. And a young bloke on the end of a broom sidled up to me and said, "Hey, mate, want to share a special herbal cigarette?" I politely declined. Look, I can't deal with high maintenance people.
Oh, geez.
Very good.
Oh, you shocker.